Dyeing basket reed is a project for this morning, and I've got 2 pans set up. I'm going to get an extra 5-gallon bucket with some clear water in it, and I'm going to illustrate the steps that I go through to use the Cushing acid dyes to fix the dye so it doesn't bleed or bleeds very little with cellulose materials. So this will work for broom corn and it'll work for basket reed. I've got plenty of blue and green and some rust made up for some fall colors. And today I'm going to dye turquoise, which I don't have any reed for tying the brooms or making the Nantucket baskets, so I'm going to dye some turquoise today. So the process is a hot vat of water. Once this comes up to a boil, I'm going to put probably about half a package of a Cushing dye pack into my water. I'm going to dye a lot of reed today. The first vat gets pure vinegar, which is about I think 5 to 7% acetic acid. So I'm going to put a full gallon in here. So that's the first step. We'll soak our reed in acetic acid in the vinegar, and then it'll go into the dye bath. It'll soak for a little while to get it soft. And then the secret to fixing the dye colors where they won't bleed is the next step after the dye bath is a salt bath. It's not just a little bit of salt. I put 5 pounds of salt in here. You can get a 5-pound pack of canning salt at the store, but if you do a lot of it, you won't want to buy it like that. I get my salt in the animal section of the farm store, and I'll put about 5 pounds in here. I'm going to fill this with water, and I'll put the reed, and we're going to go through this process, put the reed in here after I'm done, and then the last step is to rinse it real good with in clear water in a 5-gallon plastic bucket. Okay, I went and grabbed a 5-pound chunk of salt-ish out of my farm store salt. And I'm going to pour water in here, and it'll take a little bit for that to dissolve. So we'll get this started dissolving. And the water is heating. And this is a process that I learned through trial and error. There's no book that says how to do this, and I didn't find this anywhere. I got tired of having dye bled all over my hands when I was making my brooms with the basket reed, and I like doing bright colors. So this process was developed just through trial and error. I figured that, you know, the mordant's salt's a good mordant for some processes, and vinegar's a good mordant for other processes, and neither of them by themselves worked with the cellulose materials. And just as an experiment, since I had both out, I tried it, and it's not 100%. There'll be a little bit of color come off your reed, but it locks the color down pretty good. So the thing with the basket reed is it's all a wet process to make the basket reed work right, and to accomplish that without having the basket reed bleed all over your hands takes a little bit of effort, because it gets wet again when you tie it. So the process is the reed will go into the vinegar, go into the dye bath, go into the salt, and then come down to the plastic bucket for a rinse. And this isn't just a little bit of salt. It's a very salty bath. There's 5 pounds of salt in about probably 2 gallons of water, and I don't dilute the vinegar, so it's pure vinegar to start, and that's not recommended by most people that do dyeing. Most tedious part of dyeing basket reed, or baskets and brooms, not the dyeing, but it's prepping the reed to go into the dye bath. So I like to tie up small bundles, a little group at a time. That's where saving your little twist ties from the bread is good. And I don't do very much in a little bundle. And then that goes into vinegar. So pulling new bundles of reed apart and assembling the little packets is the most time-consuming part of this. And I'm going to make up a bunch of these, and we'll be back and do some dyeing. These little bundles work good for making baskets and brooms both, and the little bundles are easy to then store in some kind of container and have ready to go whenever you got projects underway. I don't tie the twist ties real tight, that way I don't have to worry about taking them loose whenever they go into the dye bath. So this is 3/16 flat, and this makes nice material for teaching broom making and binding. I like to use the half-round material for making my show brooms. It's a little bit harder to work with, but it makes a really nice binding. So let's take the first batch out of the dye bath and see how that looks. Let's had a vinegar soak first. Got a nice turquoise color to it. And then went in the dye bath, and the next step is it's going to go into the salt. It's going to sit in the salt for a little while, and then we'll rinse it real good and put it in the wire rack. Okay, so this is pretty much it. Make sure that the basket reed has been in the vinegar for a little while and soaking good. And then I like to leave it in the dye vat for a little bit. Pick up as much color as it can. Basket reed doesn't pick color up real good sometimes. So the longer you leave it in the boiling dye vat, the better. Here's reed that's been in there for about 5 minutes in a pretty heavy dye bath. The half a packet of Cushing is a lot of dye, but I found that that's necessary for dyeing a pretty big batch of reed. I'll keep dyeing it as I go. It'll get lighter and lighter, but then I'll have multicolors of turquoise that I can use. So I have some dark and some medium, and it'll get lighter and lighter. So this goes in a salt bath next, and then in a clear water bath, and then goes on the rack to dry, and that's the process. This reed is ready for the drying rack in turquoise. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson and can join us at one of our festivals, and come see us. And for my students that take my broom making class, and for all of my online students, this is one of the missing components to making finished brooms.